The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a deep rumble that echoed through the vast hall. Representatives from dozens of worlds walked through, their various forms creating a colorful parade of alien life. Some walked on, 2 legs like humans, others floated in energy bubbles, and a few crawled along the walls with multiple limbs. Commander Hyun-woo sat in the observer section, dressed in the simple gray uniform of a minor trade delegate. His human features were hidden behind a holographic mask that made him appear as a member of the Altarian species. Nobody looked twice at him. To everyone in the chamber, he was just another unimportant visitor from a small trading world. Captain Nam-jin sat 3 rows behind him, also disguised. She appeared to be a Centaurian merchant, complete with the fake blue skin and extra set of eyes. Her real eyes watched everything carefully through the disguise. Both humans had been doing this for years, sitting in on council meetings and listening to galactic politics. The council chamber itself was impressive. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared into darkness. Thousands of seats surrounded a central speaking area where a massive holographic display showed star maps and data. Today, that display showed a region of space marked with bright, red warning symbols. Ambassador Krelthar walked to his usual seat near the front. The old Vorthak moved slowly on his 4 legs, his 4 arms carrying data tablets. His species looked like a cross between a spider and a lizard, with tough gray skin and large compound eyes. He had been on the council longer than almost anyone else. Some said he was over 300 years old. The session began with routine business: trade disputes, territory agreements, and resource-sharing deals. Yun-woo and Nam-jin listened patiently. Most of this information would be useful to human intelligence, but nothing seemed urgent. Then the Zephyrian delegate stood up to speak. The Zephyrians were a new species to the galactic community. They had only made contact 5 years ago when their radio signals reached council space. They looked somewhat like tall, thin humans, but with silver skin and large black eyes. Their homeworld was dying from an old industrial disaster, and they desperately needed new resources. Honored council members, the Zephyrian delegate began, his voice carrying through the chamber's translation system. My people face extinction. Our world grows colder each year. Our cities are failing. We have perhaps 50 years before our civilization ends. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several species had faced similar problems before. The council usually tried to help when possible. We have found a solution, the Zephyrian continued. Long-range scans have located 3 star systems rich in the materials we need: neutronium deposits, energy crystals, and rare metals. Enough to rebuild our world and power our cities for thousands of years. He gestured, and the holographic display changed to show detailed scans of 3 solar systems. The images showed planets covered in valuable resources. Any species would be interested in such wealth. However, the Zephyrian said, these systems lie within a region your people call the Forbidden Sector. We request permission to establish mining colonies there. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background noise of breathing, clicking, and humming from various species stopped. Every representative turned to look at the star map, then at each other. Hyun-woo felt his heart rate increase slightly. He glanced back at Nam-jin, who gave him the smallest possible nod. They both knew what the Forbidden Sector contained, but they had wondered when someone would finally ask about it. Ambassador Krelthar slowly stood up. His 4 arms shook slightly as he gripped his walking support. His compound eyes reflected the light from the holographic display as he stared at the Zephyrian delegate. Young one, Krelthar said, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. You do not understand what you ask. That sector has been forbidden for over 2 centuries. The warning markers there were not placed by any of our species. The Zephyrian delegate looked confused. Ambassador, with respect, our scans show no hostile life forms in those systems. No dangerous radiation, no unstable stars, no signs of active warfare. We see only empty worlds rich with the resources my people need to survive. Other council members began to whisper among themselves. The younger representatives looked curious about the discussion. The older ones, those who had been on the council for decades, looked worried. A representative from the Carillion Empire stood up. She was tall and covered in blue fur with sharp teeth visible when she spoke. Perhaps the warnings are outdated. It has been 200 years. Maybe whatever danger existed is gone now. Several other delegates nodded in agreement. The galaxy was always changing. Threats that existed centuries ago might not be problems anymore. But Krelthar shook his head firmly. No. Some warnings should never be ignored. Some boundaries should never be crossed. He looked directly at the Zephyrian delegate. Those systems are marked as human territory. The word human caused another wave of whispers throughout the chamber. Most species had heard stories about humans, but few had ever seen one. They were said to be a young species from a small world, nothing particularly special about them. Shuffs, Zephyrian delegate laughed. The sound was high and musical, but it seemed to make several older council members uncomfortable. Humans? The Zephyrian said. Ambassador, surely you do not fear such a primitive species. Our intelligence reports describe them as barely spacefaring. They have no great fleets, no advanced weapons, no vast empire. They are traders and explorers, nothing more. Krelthar's compound eyes seemed to dim. When he spoke again, his voice was very quiet, but the chamber's acoustics carried his words to every seat. I am over 300 years old, he said. I have seen the rise and fall of a dozen civilizations. I have watched species conquer galaxies and others destroy themselves. In all that time, in all my experience, I have learned one thing above all others. He paused, looking around the chamber at all the different species represented there. There are forces in this galaxy that we do not fully understand, powers that choose to remain hidden. The humans are one such power. His 4 arms gestured toward the star map. Those worlds are not empty because humans cannot reach them. They are empty because humans choose to keep them empty. The Carillion representative spoke up again. But, Ambassador, what could humans possibly do to stop us? They have maybe a few hundred ships. We could send thousands. Krelthar turned to look at her directly. Child, you think like a warrior. You think in terms of ships and weapons and numbers. But what if I told you that humans do not think this way? What if I told you that they have capabilities that make our fleets irrelevant? What kind of capabilities? The Zephyrian delegate demanded. Our scans detect no hidden bases, no weapon platforms, no defense networks. If humans are so powerful, where are they? For a long moment, Krelthar said nothing. He seemed to be remembering something from long ago. Finally, he spoke. Exactly, he said. Where are they indeed? A species with faster-than-light travel, with the technology to cross between stars, and yet they remain hidden. They sit in council meetings disguised as other species. They trade with us using false identities. They walk among us, and we never know. Hyunwoo kept his expression neutral, but inside, he was impressed. The old Vorthak was more perceptive than most humans realized. Even if this is true, the Zephyrian said, surely they would understand our situation. My people are dying. Would any civilized species refuse to help refugees? Krelthar looked sad. Perhaps they would help. Perhaps they would find another way to save your world, but you are not asking for help. You are asking to take what they have marked as forbidden. And that, young one, is very different. The chamber erupted in discussions. Some representatives supported the Zephyrian request. Others urged caution. A few of the older members quietly agreed with Krelthar. The Zephyrian delegate raised his voice above the noise. I respect the Council's wisdom, but my people cannot wait for theoretical dangers. We will proceed with our colonization mission. If humans object, they can contact us directly. Krelthar sat down heavily in his chair. He looked very tired and very old. Then you will learn, he said quietly, why even the most courageous among us do not cross that line. Hyunwoo and Namjin exchanged another glance. The meeting was about to become much more interesting. As the council session continued, both humans were already planning their reports. Earth needed to know that someone was finally going to test the boundaries they had established so long ago. The Zephyrians had no idea what they were about to discover. 3 weeks after the council meeting, the Zephyrian fleet prepared for departure. 12 massive ships floated in orbit around their dying homeworld. Each ship was over 2 kilometers long and packed with everything needed to build new colonies. Mining equipment, construction robots, living quarters for thousands of people, and enough supplies to last for years. Explorer Rathine stood on the bridge of the lead ship. watching his homeworld through the main viewing screen. The planet looked sick. Brown clouds covered most of the surface, and the few clear areas showed dead oceans and empty cities. His people had maybe 50 years left before everything ended. "All ships report ready for jump," his navigator announced. The young Zephyrians' silver skins seemed to glow with excitement. This mission represented hope for their entire species. "Begin the jump sequence," Ratheen ordered. "Destination: Kepler 442 system, Forbidden Sector." The 12 ships disappeared in flashes of blue light, beginning their journey toward the restricted region of space. None of them noticed the small human monitoring station hidden in the asteroid belt of their home system. Dr. Ji-hoon watched the Zephyrian fleet vanish from his sensors. The human scientist had been stationed here for 2 years, keeping track of the new species and their activities. His monitoring station was completely invisible to Zephyrian technology, hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid and powered by a small fusion reactor. "Well, they actually did it," he said to himself, recording the event in his log. 12 ships, estimated 50,000 colonists, heading directly into the memorial sectors. He activated his quantum communication system and sent an encrypted message toward human space. The message would reach Earth's monitoring stations in less than an hour, despite being thousands of light years away. Quantum entanglement made instant communication possible across any distance. On the other end, Captain So Young received the alert aboard her stealth frigate. The HSS Shadow was one of humanity's most advanced reconnaissance ships, completely invisible to any known sensor technology. It had been following the Zephyrian fleet from a safe distance since they left their homeworld. "They've jumped," her communications officer reported. "Destination confirmed as Kepler 442 system." So Young studied the tactical display. The Kepler 442 system contained 3 habitable worlds, all of them rich with valuable resources. It also contained something the Zephyrians had no way to detect: the largest human memorial site outside of Earth's solar system. "Follow them," she ordered. "Maintain distance and full stealth. I want to know exactly what they do when they arrive." The Shadow jumped to hyperspace, trailing the alien fleet by several hours to avoid detection. The Zephyrian ships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Their sensors immediately began scanning the 3 planets, and what they found made the entire crew excited. The worlds were even richer in resources than their long-range scans had suggested. "Neutronium deposits on the second planet are massive," the science officer reported to Ratheen. "Enough to power our entire civilization for thousands of years. Energy crystals on the third planet exceed our best estimates," another officer added. "The formations are naturally occurring and incredibly pure." Ratheen smiled for the first time in months. Maybe his people would survive after all. "What about the first planet?" "Rare metals, including several elements we've never seen before. The mineral wealth here could support dozens of colony worlds." The fleet moved deeper into the system, their ships spreading out to scan each world in detail. They found no signs of intelligent life, no defense platforms, no warning systems. Everything appeared exactly as their long-range scans had indicated: empty worlds waiting to be claimed. "Begin landing procedures," Ratheen ordered. "Establish the first mining platform on the second planet. Send survey teams to all 3 worlds." What the Zephyrians could not see were the thousands of small markers scattered across the planet's surfaces. Each marker was made from materials that appeared to be simple stone and metal, but contained technology far beyond current galactic understanding. The markers had been waiting silently for over 2 centuries, monitoring everything that happened in the system. The first Zephyrian landing ships touched down on Kepler 442b, the second planet. The world had a thin atmosphere and low gravity, perfect for mining operations. Rocky plains stretched to the horizon, broken only by mountain ranges that sparkled with valuable minerals. Ratheen himself led the first survey team. He wanted to personally examine the neutronium deposits before committing his entire fleet to the operation. Wearing a protective suit, he walked across the planet's surface with a team of scientists and engineers. "The deposits are even better than we hoped," his chief geologist reported. "We can begin extraction immediately." They chose a site near a large neutronium formation and began setting up their first mining platform. Massive machines were brought down from the ships and assembled on the planet's surface. Within hours, the Zephyrians had a fully functional mining operation, but as their drilling equipment reached deeper into the planet's crust, it disturbed something that had been buried there for centuries. The drill broke through into a large, underground chamber, and suddenly their sensors detected artificial structures below the surface. "Explorer Rathine," the mining supervisor called over the radio. "We found something unusual. There appears to be some kind of facility beneath the neutronium deposits." Rathine hurried to the drilling site. His team lowered cameras into the chamber and activated powerful lights. What they saw on their screens made them all fall silent. Underground chamber was enormous, stretching far beyond what their lights could reach. But it wasn't empty. Thousands of objects lined the chamber walls, each one clearly artificial and incredibly old. The objects were arranged in perfect rows, like some kind of storage facility or archive. "What are those things?" one of the scientists whispered. The camera moved closer to examine individual objects. Each one appeared to be a rectangular container made from unknown materials. Strange symbols were carved into their surfaces, symbols that looked almost like writing but in no language the Zephyrians recognized. "There are thousands of them," the mining supervisor said. "Maybe tens of thousands. This entire area is built on top of some kind of ancient facility." Rathine felt a chill run through him. Despite his heated suit, "Have you found any similar structures at the other dig sites?" "Checking now," came the reply. "Yes, Explorer. All our drilling operations have encountered underground chambers. The entire planet appears to be covered with these facilities." "Similar." Reports came in from the survey teams on the other two planets. Every mining site, every landing zone, every area they examined contained buried structures filled with the mysterious containers. "Could these be some kind of storage devices?" Rathine asked his science team. "Maybe left by an ancient civilization?" His xenoarchaeologist, the expert on alien cultures, examined the images carefully. "The construction methods are unlike anything in our databases. The materials appear to be incredibly advanced, possibly self-repairing. And the symbols..." She paused. "Explorer, these symbols appear in the Council's restricted archives. They're associated with humans." The words hit Rathine like a physical blow. Humans. The species Ambassador Krelthar had warned them about, the ones who supposedly marked this sector as forbidden. "Are you certain?" he asked. "The symbols match historical records of human writing, but they are much older than any known human civilization. These facilities could be thousands of years old." At that moment, their sensors detected something that made the entire situation much worse. The containers weren't just storage devices. They were transmitting. Weak signals, almost undetectable, but definitely artificial. And those signals were being sent toward human space. Captain So Young, watching from her cloaked ship, received the transmissions almost immediately. The ancient beacons had been triggered by the Zephyrian mining operations, and they were sending out distress calls that had been programmed centuries ago. "Captain," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving automated distress signals from the memorial sites. The aliens have breached the underground chambers." So Young closed her eyes for a moment. The Zephyrians had no idea what they had just done, but every human in the galaxy would know within hours. "Send a priority message. To Fleet Command," she ordered. "Code 7 alert. The memorial worlds have been disturbed. Request immediate response." As the message raced toward human space, Explorer Rathine and his people continued their mining operations, unaware that they had just triggered something that would bring the full attention of humanity down upon them. The ancient chambers contained more than just storage containers. They contained the reason why humans had marked this sector as forbidden, and why even the bravest species in the galaxy chose not to cross that line. The Zephyrians were about to learn that some boundaries exist, for very good reasons. Admiral Minho was drinking his morning coffee in his private quarters aboard the HSS Indomitable when the emergency alert came through. The massive dreadnought was patrolling the outer edges of human space, far from any populated worlds, when every communication system on the ship suddenly activated at once. The Admiral set down his coffee cup and walked to his command console. Red warning lights flashed across multiple screens, and the priority alert signal filled his quarters with urgent beeping sounds. In his 30 years of military service, he had never seen a Code 7 alert. "Bridge, report," he said into his communicator. Lieutenant Hajin's voice came through immediately. "Admiral, We're receiving automated distress signals from the Kepler 442 memorial system. The archaeological sites are reporting unauthorized excavation and potential artifact disruption. Min-ho felt his blood run cold. The memorial systems were humanity's most sacred sites, places where millions had died protecting the galaxy from threats most species had never even heard of. Those sites had been undisturbed for over 2 centuries. How many intrusion signals? He asked, already moving toward the bridge. Multiple sites across all 3 memorial worlds, sir. The signals indicate large-scale excavation equipment and significant structural damage to the underground chambers. The Admiral stepped onto the bridge, and his crew immediately came to attention. Min-ho was known throughout the human fleet as a calm, thoughtful commander, but his officers could see the change in his expression. His usual friendly demeanor had been replaced by something much harder. "Tactical display," he ordered. The main screen showed the Kepler 442 system with red markers indicating every disturbed memorial site. There were dozens of them, scattered across all 3 planets. Someone wasn't just accidentally disturbing the sites. They were conducting massive mining operations directly on top of them. "Sir, long-range sensors detect 12 large alien vessels in the system," the tactical officer reported. "Species unknown, but they appear to be civilian mining and colony ships." "How many people?" Min-ho asked. "Estimated 50,000 individuals, sir." The Admiral studied the display for a long moment. 50,000 civilians who had no idea what they were doing. They probably thought they had found empty worlds rich with resources. They had no way of knowing they were digging through humanity's most sacred ground. "Lieutenant He-jin, send a priority message to Fleet Command. Code 7 situation confirmed. Request immediate deployment of all available vessels to Kepler 442 system." "Sir, all available vessels?" He-jin asked. "That would be over 200 ships." "All available vessels," Min-ho confirmed, "and activate the restoration protocol." A hush fell over the bridge. Most of the crew had heard of the restoration protocol, but none of them had ever seen it used. It was theoretical technology developed decades ago but never deployed in the field. Engineer Yuri, the ship's oldest crew member, looked up from her station. "Admiral, the restoration protocol has never been tested on this scale. We don't know if it will work." Min-ho turned to look at her. Yuri had been with the fleet for over 40 years. She had helped design some of the technology they were discussing. "Engineer Yuri, you were part of the team that created the protocol. In your professional opinion, will it work?" Yuri was quiet for a moment, considering the question. "Sir, the technology is sound. We've tested it on small scales. But what you're talking about would require reversing months of industrial excavation across multiple planets. The power requirements alone, can it be done?" Min-ho asked again. "Yes, sir. But it will require every restoration ship in the fleet, and we'll need to establish temporary power stations throughout the system. It's going to be the largest engineering project in human history." "Then we do it," the Admiral said. "Those sites will be restored to exactly the condition they were in before these aliens arrived. Every stone, every marker, every grain of soil will be returned to its proper place." He activated the ship-wide communication system. "This is Admiral Min-ho speaking to all crew. We have a Code 7 situation in the memorial sectors. Archaeological sites containing the remains of 2.3 million human defenders have been disturbed by alien excavation operations." The ship's corridors fell silent as crew members stopped what they were doing to listen. "We are proceeding immediately to restore the sites and protect the sanctity of our memorial worlds. All departments are to prepare for extended operations. Engineering teams, begin preparations for large-scale restoration protocol deployment. All available vessels in the fleet are being recalled to assist." Throughout human space, the response was immediate and absolute. Battleships emerged from hidden bases in asteroid fields and gas giant atmospheres. Research vessels equipped with advanced technology changed course toward the Kepler 442 system. Construction ships capable of reshaping entire planets began moving from their secret positions. Captain Boram received the alert aboard her diplomatic cruiser near the galactic core. She had been conducting trade negotiations with a minor species when her ship's AI interrupted the meeting with an emergency message. "Captain, we have a Code 7 alert from Fleet Command. All ships are ordered to converge on Kepler 442 system immediately." Boram excused herself from the negotiations and hurried to her bridge. When she saw the situation report, she understood why every human ship in the galaxy was being recalled. "Set course for Kepler 442, maximum speed," she ordered. "And prepare the diplomatic protocols for first contact with an unknown species." "Captain, the aliens don't know we're human, do they?" her first officer asked. "Not yet," Bo-Ram replied, "but they're about to learn." Dr. Kyung-Soo was conducting archaeological research on a distant world when his cloaked research vessel received the alert. He had been studying ancient alien ruins for months, but this was more important than any discovery. "Pack everything," he told his team. "We're leaving for the memorial worlds immediately." His assistant looked confused. "Doctor, we're in the middle of a major discovery here. The alien ruins could rewrite our understanding of galactic history." Kyung-Soo stopped packing and looked at the young scientist. "Son, do you know what happened at Kepler 442? It's a memorial system, isn't it? From the Void Plague outbreak? It's where 2.3 million humans died to save every living world in this galaxy," Kyung-Soo said quietly. "They volunteered to stay behind and contain a plague that would have consumed all organic life. They knew they would die, but they did it anyway to protect species they had never even met." The assistant's expression changed. "And someone is disturbing their resting place? Someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but yes. And now, every human in the galaxy is going to converge on that system to make sure our people can rest in peace again." Scout In-Soo was the first human to reach the Kepler 442 system. His small reconnaissance ship was one of the fastest in the fleet, and he had been relatively close when the alert came through. He approached the system carefully, his ship completely invisible to alien sensors. "Command, this is Scout In-Soo reporting from Kepler 442 system. I have visual confirmation of 12 alien vessels conducting mining operations on all 3 memorial worlds." "What's their current status?" Admiral Minho's voice came through the communication system. "They appear to be civilian mining operations." "Sir, no military escorts, no defensive preparations. They have no idea we're coming." "Any signs they understand what they've found?" In-Soo watched the alien ships through his long-range sensors. Mining platforms were operating across the planet's surfaces, and cargo ships were moving resources between the worlds and the main fleet. "Negative, sir. They're treating this like a standard mining operation. They've established permanent facilities on all 3 worlds and appear to be planning long-term colonization." "Understood. Maintain observation and stay hidden. The fleet will arrive within 6 hours." In-Soo settled in to watch the aliens work. They had no idea that they had just triggered the largest military mobilization in human history. Within hours, this empty system would contain more advanced technology than most species had ever imagined. The aliens were about to learn why humans were considered off-limits, and why even the bravest species in the galaxy chose not to cross that line. As more human ships began arriving at the edge of the system, their crews prepared for something that had never been attempted before: the complete restoration of an entire solar system while 50,000 alien civilians watched. The Zephyrians had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. Now humanity was coming to redraw it. Explorer Ratheen stood in the main excavation chamber, staring at what his mining teams had uncovered. The underground facility was much larger than they had first thought. Tunnels stretched in every direction, leading to more chambers filled with the mysterious containers. But what disturbed him most was what they had found inside some of the containers. "Explorer, you need to see this," his chief archaeologist called from across the chamber. Her voice sounded shaky through the communication system. Ratheen walked carefully across the metal flooring toward her position. The floor was made from materials his scientists couldn't identify, but it was clearly artificial and incredibly old. Strange symbols covered every surface, symbols that looked almost familiar but weren't in any language his people knew. The archaeologist was standing next to an opened container, her scanning equipment spread around her feet. Inside the container, clearly visible through the transparent section, was something that made Ratheen's silver skin turn pale. It was a body, a humanoid body, perfectly preserved despite what appeared to be centuries of age. The being was tall and slender, with features that looked almost exactly like the species his people called humans. But this individual was wearing some kind of advanced armor, and the container was filled with technology that still seemed to be functioning. "How many containers like this have you found?" Ratheen asked quietly. "All of them, Explorer. Every single container in this facility contains a preserved humanoid body, and there are thousands of them in this chamber alone." Ratheen felt sick. His people had been mining on top of a graveyard, not just any graveyard, but one containing thousands of perfectly preserved bodies from an unknown civilization. "Have you identified the species?" he asked. The archaeologist nodded slowly. "Based on genetic samples and physical characteristics, these appear to be humans. But that's impossible. According to Council records, humans are a young species that only developed space travel recently. These bodies are over 200 years old." Before Ratheen could respond, his communication system activated with an emergency signal from the orbital fleet. "Explorer Ratheen, this is Captain Veltar on the command ship. We have a situation. Unknown vessels are appearing throughout the system." Ratheen hurried to the surface, leaving his archaeological team to continue their disturbing discoveries. When he reached the mining platform's command center, the tactical display showed something that made his heart stop beating for a moment. Ships were materializing throughout the Kepler 442 system. Not just a few ships, but dozens of them. Large, advanced-looking vessels that appeared from nowhere as if they had been invisible and suddenly chosen to reveal themselves. "How many ships?" Ratheen asked. 37 so far, and more are appearing every few minutes," Captain Veltar replied. "Their design is unlike anything in our databases. The energy signatures are incredible. Some of these ships are larger than our entire fleet combined." Ratheen watched the display as more ships continued to appear. They moved with perfect coordination, taking positions throughout the system like they owned it. And perhaps they did. "Any communication from the unknown fleet?" he asked. "Nothing. Yet. But—" Captain Veltar paused. "Explorer, one of their ships is approaching your position. It's moving directly toward the second planet." On the surface, Ratheen and his mining teams looked up as a shadow passed over their installation. A ship unlike anything they had ever seen was descending toward them. It was sleek and dark, with no visible weapons or engines, yet it moved through the atmosphere as easily as swimming through water. The ship landed a few hundred meters from the mining platform, and a ramp extended from its hull. A figure in a simple environmental suit walked down the ramp and began moving toward the Zephyrian installation. Ratheen met the stranger at the edge of his mining site. Through the figure's helmet visor, he could see a face that matched the bodies they had found in the underground chambers. A human face. "I am Dr. Kyung-soo," the human said through his suit's translation system. "I believe you have discovered something that belongs to my people." Ratheen's translator struggled with the calm, measured tone of the human's voice. There was no anger, no threat, just a quiet certainty that was somehow more frightening than any weapon. We didn't know," Ratheen said. "Our scans showed no signs of intelligent life, no active civilizations. We thought these worlds were empty." Dr. Kyung-soo looked past Ratheen toward the mining equipment and the entrance to the underground chambers. "Of course, your scans showed nothing. Human memorial technology is designed to be invisible to anyone except us. You have been excavating through our most sacred burial grounds." "Sacred burial grounds?" Ratheen repeated. "This system contains the remains of 2.3 million humans who died defending this region from the Void Plague outbreak of 2089, Dr. Kyung-soo explained. They volunteered to stay behind and contain a plague that would have consumed every living world in the galaxy. They knew they would die, but they sacrificed themselves to protect species they had never even met." The words hit Ratheen like a physical blow. His people had been mining through the graves of heroes who had died protecting the entire galaxy. Heroes who had died protecting his ancestors centuries before his species had even developed space travel. "We had no way of knowing," he said weakly. "No, you didn't," Dr. Kyung-soo agreed. "But you were warned. The Galactic Council told you. This sector was forbidden. Ambassador Krelthar specifically warned you about crossing human boundaries." Captain Bo-Ram's diplomatic cruiser appeared in the sky above them, completely silent despite its massive size. The ship hovered motionless, displaying technology that seemed to ignore basic physics. "Dr. Kyung-soo, this is Captain Bo-Ram. I'm reading 50,000 life signs throughout the system. How do you want to handle the situation?" Dr. Kyung-soo activated his suit's communication system. "Captain, begin standard first contact protocols. These people made an honest mistake. They didn't understand what they were disturbing." Ratheen looked between the two humans, trying to understand what was happening. "First contact protocols? But humans are already members of the galactic community. We've seen your representatives at council meetings." Dr. Kyung-soo and Captain Bo-ram exchanged a look that Ratheen couldn't interpret. "No," Dr. Kyung-soo said gently. "You've seen what we wanted you to see. Humans disguised as other species, observing and learning about the galactic community. This is the first time we've revealed ourselves directly to a non-human species in over 2 centuries. The implication of his words slowly sank in. Humans had been hiding among the galactic community for centuries, advanced enough to fool every other species, watching and learning while pretending to be primitive traders and explorers. Why? Ratheen asked. Why hide your true capabilities? Captain Bo-ram's ship landed nearby, and she walked out to join the conversation. Because most species aren't ready to know what humanity has become. We learned long ago that revealing our true technological level tends to destabilize galactic politics. More human ships continued to appear throughout the system. Ratheen counted over 60 vessels now, each one displaying technology that seemed impossible. Ships that moved, without visible propulsion, vessels that appeared and disappeared at will, craft that seemed to bend space around them. What happens now? Ratheen asked. Dr. Kyung-soo looked toward the mining operations that covered the memorial worlds. Now we restore everything to exactly the way it was before you arrived. Every excavation will be filled, every structure rebuilt, every grave marker returned to its proper position. That's impossible, Ratheen said. We've moved millions of tons of material, built permanent installations, changed the entire landscape of these worlds. Captain Bo-ram smiled, and for the first time, Ratheen saw something that frightened him more than any weapon. She looked completely confident, as if restoring 3 entire planets was just a minor inconvenience. Explorer Ratheen, she said, you're about to see why humans are considered off-limits by the galactic community. As if summoned by her words, more human ships began appearing. Not dozens now, but hundreds. The Kepler 442 system was filling with technology that defied everything Ratheen thought he knew about physics and engineering. The Zephyrians had crossed a line they didn't know existed, and now they were going to learn exactly what that line was meant to protect them from discovering. Admiral Minho's flagship emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and the sight that greeted him took his breath away. Over 200 human vessels had already arrived, forming a perfect defensive sphere around the 3 memorial worlds. Each ship represented technology that the galactic community had never seen, capabilities that humanity had kept hidden for centuries. The HSS Indomitable itself was a perfect example. The massive dreadnought was 12 kilometers long and contained more advanced technology than most species had developed in their entire history. Its hull was made from materials that could repair themselves. Its engines manipulated space-time. Itself and its computers were more intelligent than some organic beings. Admiral, all fleet elements are in position, Lieutenant Ha-jin reported. Engineering teams are ready to begin the restoration protocol on your command. Minho studied the tactical display. The 12 Zephyrian ships looked tiny compared to the human fleet, like toys floating among giants. He felt no anger toward the aliens. They had made an honest mistake. But that mistake had disturbed the most sacred sites in human space. Begin restoration operations, he ordered. What happened next would be remembered by the Zephyrian survivors for the rest of their lives. Human ships throughout the system began to demonstrate technology that seemed to ignore the basic laws of physics. Massive construction vessels appeared near each mining site, but these weren't ordinary construction ships. They projected energy fields that could manipulate matter at the molecular level, rearranging atoms and rebuilding structures that had been destroyed months ago. Dr. Soo-jin coordinated the restoration. From her specialized vessel, the HSS Renewal. Her ship was equipped with temporal field generators, devices that could reverse the flow of time in small areas. She watched her instruments as the first field activated around a damaged memorial site. The effect was incredible to witness. Mining equipment that had been operating for months suddenly began moving in reverse. Excavated soil flew back into the holes it had come from. Damaged structures rebuilt themselves stone by stone. It was as if time itself was flowing backward, undoing months of mining operations in minutes. Temporal field generators operating at maximum efficiency, Dr. Soo-jin reported to the Admiral. We're successfully reversing 3 months of excavation damage across the first memorial site. Explorer Ratheen watched from his mining platform as his entire operation was systematically erased. Human ships surrounded each of his installations, projecting fields of energy that made his equipment move in impossible ways. Massive drilling machines rose out of holes they had created, moving backward through their own operation sequence. But what terrified him most wasn't the technology itself. It was how casually the humans used it. They weren't straining to accomplish these impossible tasks. The restoration of entire worlds seemed to be routine for them, something they could do without effort. "Explorer," his chief engineer called over the communication system. "Our power systems are being affected by the human energy fields. All our equipment is shutting down automatically." Ratheen looked around his mining platform. Every piece of Zephyrian technology was powering down safely, as if the human fields were designed to protect alien equipment while undoing its work. Ambassador Hae-Jin appeared on his platform, having transported directly from her ship without any visible technology. One moment the platform was empty. The next moment she was standing there, as if she had always been present. "Explorer Ratheen," she said calmly. "I am Ambassador Hae-Jin of the Human Diplomatic Corps. We need to discuss your situation." Ratheen stared at her. She was clearly human, but she had appeared from nowhere. No transport beam, no shuttle, no explanation for how she had arrived. "How did you get here?" he asked. "That's not important right now," Hae-Jin replied. "What's important is that your people understand what's happening and why." She gestured toward the activity happening throughout the system. Human ships were working at every mining site simultaneously, and the results were visible even from orbit. Damaged landscapes were repairing themselves, underground chambers were being sealed and restored, and memorial markers were rising from the ground as if they had never been disturbed. "Your species made contact with the galactic community 5 years ago," Hae-Jin continued. "Since then, we've been watching your progress and learning about your people. We know about your dying homeworld and your desperate need for resources." "Then, why didn't you help us?" Ratheen asked. "If you have this kind of technology, you could have saved our world years ago." Hae-Jin's expression became sad. "Because you never asked. You came to the Galactic Council demanding the right to take what you needed from our memorial worlds. You never requested help, never asked for aid, never tried to find another solution." She activated a small device, and a holographic display appeared between them. The display showed star charts of nearby regions, with dozens of systems marked in green. "These are uninhabited systems with resource concentrations equal to or greater than what you found here," she explained. "Any one of them could supply everything your species needs to rebuild your homeworld. We would have been happy to share this information if you had asked." Ratheen stared at the star charts. Dozens of systems, all rich with the resources his people needed, all within reach of their current technology. His species could have been saved without disturbing a single grave. "Why didn't the Council tell us about these systems?" he asked. "Because the Council doesn't know about them," Hae-Jin replied. "Humanity has been exploring and mapping the galaxy for much longer than most species realize. We've found resources that others have missed, discovered worlds that aren't in any database." Around them, the restoration work continued. Human ships were demonstrating capabilities that redefined what Ratheen thought was possible. He watched a massive engineering vessel project an energy field that lifted an entire mountain, moved it several kilometers, and set it down in its original position with perfect precision. "What are you?" he whispered. Hae-Jin followed his gaze to the engineering operations. "We're what a species becomes when it has time to develop without interference, when it focuses on growth instead of conquest, and when it learns to value cooperation over domination." Admiral Minho's voice came through the communication system, addressed to all ships in the system. "Restoration operations are proceeding ahead of schedule. All memorial sites will be returned to their original condition within 12 hours. 12 hours. The humans were going to undo months of industrial mining operations across 3 planets in 12 hours. "Is this why you're forbidden?" Ratheen asked. "Because you have this kind of power?" Hae-Jin shook her head. "We're not forbidden because we're dangerous. We're forbidden because we're different. Most species in the galaxy think in terms of conquest and competition. They see advanced technology and immediately think about how to use it for warfare or domination." She gestured toward the human fleet. "But humans develop differently. We learn to use our capabilities for preservation, restoration, and protection. We could dominate the galaxy easily, but we choose not to. Instead, we watch and protect. maintaining the balance while allowing other species to grow at their own pace. But why hide? Rathine asked. Why not reveal yourselves and help guide galactic development? Because most species aren't ready, Hyejin replied. When a species discovers that there's another civilization thousands of years more advanced than them, they usually react with fear or desperation. They either try to steal the technology or they give up developing their own capabilities. The restoration work was nearly complete. Across all 3 memorial worlds, the human fleet had erased every trace of Zephyrian presence. Mountains had been returned to their original positions. Underground chambers had been sealed and protected, and millions of grave markers had been restored to perfect condition. What happens to my people now? Rathine asked. Hyejin activated her device again, and the holographic display changed to show detailed information about several resource-rich systems. Your fleet will be escorted safely out of this system, she said. You'll be provided with complete survey data for 12 uninhabited systems that contain everything your species needs. Human engineering teams will assist with your initial colonization efforts and will provide technology to help restore your homeworld. Rathine couldn't believe what he was hearing. After what we've done, you're going to help us? You made a mistake, but it was an honest one, Hyejin replied. And your species is facing extinction. Humanity doesn't abandon people who need help, even when they've crossed lines they shouldn't have crossed. Admiral Minho's flagship moved into position above the memorial worlds. From its hull, thousands of small devices emerged and spread across the planet's surfaces. Each device projected a field that strengthened the barriers around the memorial sites, making them even more protected than they had been before. The memorial sectors will remain inviolate, the Admiral's voice announced to all ships in the system. The warning markers will be reinforced and upgraded. The line stands, stronger than before. As the human fleet prepared to escort the Zephyrian ships to safety, Hyejin prepared to return to her vessel.